Hello and welcome to Learn with Swasti. In this video, I'm going to be talking about paper 2, which happened on 13th January 2023. And I will be first talking about CDP, the entire CDP, in fact, and English as language 1 and Hindi as language 2 in this video. And I've made a separate video on the social studies. Now, the reason why this video is so detailed is because I have taken this paper yesterday and I can give you the entire how the paper was. So I have taken social studies as my option in paper 2, and this video let me tell you how CDP was. So CDP was very easy. There was nothing which had come from outside. Everything was based on the previous year's papers, previous year's questions, and the options were also given in such a manner that it was very easy to score. In fact, I feel that paper 2 was easier than paper 1. I have also done a video on paper 1 and I will link it in the description below and you can see that. So, in this video, I have almost 28 to 29 questions. So, there was a question on socialization process. What is it known as? So, a statement was given where a family is teaching the culture to the child, and you were asked, what is this known as? And out of all the options, socialization was one of the options. There were examples of gender bias. So, if a child grows up seeing his father cook and his mother go to office, what will he be against? So, gender stereotype and gender bias question was there. Again, critical thinking, these were the answers. Like the teacher asked the children to think about the impact of corona pandemic on the children of the world and what is she promoting. So the answer was critical thinking. From growth and development, it was a very simple question, as in which stage does one use gross motor skills rather than the fine motor skills. And the options had infancy, early childhood, middle childhood, and uh, later childhood. So it has to be between these two. I'm honestly telling you, I've answered infancy as opposed to early childhood, but let's see what what CBSE says. Then there were questions on ways to enhance creativity. What can a teacher do to enhance creativity? And there were quite a few options, and the options were very simple. So you did not have much. You didn't have to think too much. Then effective learning situations were given. Which of the following is a more effective learning situation? And you were asked to identify. So this was also very simple. Now almost 8 questions came from the theories. From Vygotsky, we had 3 questions. One was on scaffolding. So, if this is again, all of them are from the PYQs, where so this question was on if you give an extra bit of information to the child which helps him in the ZPD, what is it known as? Then learning and social context. So, according to Vygotsky, learning happens in the social and cultural context. So, that kind of a question. And a direct statement, language helps in socialization process or something like that. I don't remember the statement right now, but who is this statement by? And the names of Skinner and Piaget were given, and the answer was Vygotsky. So these are all questions taken. They might have changed a few words here and there, but totally different, dependent on the PYQs. From Piaget, they had 2 questions. One was on animism. A child feels that because a car moves, it has life and feelings. So, what is this called? What did Piaget call it? And one from the sensory motor stage, which is a very simple, direct question, a stage where interaction with senses makes sense to the child. So, which stage is it? And from Kohlberg, there was one question. It was not a very difficult question because of the options which were given. So it was like morality in stage 6. So they had mentioned that in Kohlberg's theory, stage 6, morality of individual principles and conscience is characterized by, and they had given 4 options. 2 of them you could eliminate easily, and the two which got me thinking was being respected by others and test individual rules against society. So, test individual rules against society would be the answer, but these two were the uh, close enough, like they give two options which you can eliminate very easily, and two which you have to think about. Gardner's was also a simple question about a person who has skills with language and writing. What kind of intelligence does he have? So, paper one had asked about interpersonal intelligence, and paper two had asked about linguistic intelligence. There were three questions from inclusion. So, one is what should a teacher do in a heterogeneous classroom? Philosophy of a teacher where there are diverse learners. So, there were options given, and you had to choose. And managing a class with children with different abilities. So, quite a good three questions on inclusion. There was one question on metacognition. So, a teacher asked, what did you learn about how you learn? What is the teacher referring to? Constructivist classrooms. So, constructivism again had three direct questions. One was, what are the modes of assessment that a teacher can use in a constructivist classroom? And the options were around like standard test and portfolio. That was the answer. And the others were not constructive enough. Give exemplars and non-exemplars. So this is a question which has been asked many times. What should a teacher do in a constructivist classroom, and give exemplars and non-exemplars along with and other options which it does not have that. And there was one on where you had to give importance to the previous knowledge, because in a constructivist classroom, how is the learner's previous knowledge treated? Motivation, there were questions on intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Directly, which of the following is an example of intrinsic or extrinsic motivation? Emotions and cognition. These questions have also been asked in the previous year, where they are asked about uh, emotions have an effect on cognition, or they do not have an effect. Now, there were three ANRs, or assertion and reason questions. So one was on learning. Learning is a meaning making process, and R was children learn through making meaning of new knowledge. So this is the only one I remember uh, completely. And the four options given were, of course, the same as uh, A is true and R is the reason for A. Then the two other ANRs are, I've just written down what it is that they had asked. So it is on problem solving, about problem solving, and one was on emotional stages and cognition. So I don't remember the questions, but uh, they were not very difficult. Learning disabilities, there was one on ADHD. What adaptations should a teacher make with a child who has ADHD, and match the correctly paired features with the disability? So disability. So this was match the column. On one side there was visual impairment, autism, creativity, and learning disability, and on the other side it was what all you could make. Now, if we go on to language 2, I have written this first. So this is a strategy which I used. My CDP was strong. So I first did my CDP. It took me around 15 minutes. Then I did language 2 first. That is, I did Hindi first because I am not very fluent with Hindi. So there were two prose passages given with very easy questions. So the questions were not difficult because you could literally go up to the text and match the answers. There was a grammar. So it had grammar. Uh, One was Parayavachi. What is a Parayavachi of something was asked, and you had to find that. The pedagogy questions. Now, again, this paper is not a difficult question if you understand Hindi very well. So one was objective of Nipun Bharat. So Nipun Bharat के क्या उद्देश्य थे? And the answer was foundational literacy and numeracy. Now this was all written in Hindi, and I cannot remember so much of Hindi. So I have, but it was, if you read it, it was Saksharta, Prathamik, something Saksharta and Sankhya, something, something. So that is how I could make out. So options were very clear. Then Bhasha ke saath sanlagnata, that is engagement with language. So this is a question which has come in previous PYQs. You can check out all the Bhasha ke saath sanlagnata questions. आकलन में प्रतिपुष्टि किस लिए दी जाती है? तो प्रतिपुष्टि मीन्स फीडबैक. If you don't know what प्रतिपुष्टि is, आकलन is evaluation or measurement. Evaluation, basically assessment. आकलन, so why do we give feedback in uh, assessment? So आकलन में प्रतिपुष्टि किस लिए दी जाती है? Then काव्य शिक्षा का मुख्य उद्देश्य क्या है? And the options were quite clear. So if you understand what the question is asking, it's not so difficult to get this. उत्पादक कौशल कौन से हैं? So this is again another very favorite कौशल question. Sorry. उत्पादक कौशल are your expressive skills, and so they had mentioned Shravan, Lekhan, and all that, and you had to get the writing and speaking and writing part correct. भाषा शिक्षा की केंद्रीयता क्या है? So the focus of language learning. It was quite not too difficult if we look at it. So after I completed language 2 Hindi, I went to do my language 1 first, because I wanted to keep maximum time for social studies. So language 1 had a prose and a poem. The poem was William Blake's The Schoolboy. So this poem has already been taken in a previous year question. So not that the questions were repeated, but the poems are there. So it's also a part of the NCRT class 8. There were, so this it wasn't very difficult. They hardly asked too much of grammar. One was a synonym, one was a clause, which identify the kind of clause. So there wasn't too much of grammar. Um, Coming to pedagogy, there were 2 or 3 questions from any NCF 2005 and NEP 2020. One was the use of mother tongue in teaching, and the questions were quite. If you've done the online question papers of last year, you would be able to get all of them. What is intonation? Now, these were some questions which I found a little, I won't call it difficult, or but maybe you could they were worded a little differently. So what is intonation? A variation in, and the options were sound, pitch, word, and air. So the answer is pitch, but this kind of a question was asked. Then another one was the use of authentic material while teaching. So a teacher uses newspaper articles to teach. What is this kind of a text known as? So this has been asked before. This was, which approach to grammar encourages the belief that learning a language is a matter of learning rules? And these were the options given: inductive approach, deductive approach, communicative approach, and grammar translation. The answer being deductive approach. So this was a differently worded question on deductive approach. And which one of the following makes communication a cyclical process? So this question I had not seen. I have not seen. Maybe it is there. You can let me know in the comments below. Sender, receiver, message, and feedback. So this is how I did this paper, and finally, within 1 hour, I had finished all this, and then I had almost 1.5 hours for social studies, for which I had studied for only 10 days. And I have written down all the questions of social studies also, and I will be making another video on the same. So if you have found this helpful, please do give a like, and let me know in the comments below what it is, how I can help you. Thank you for watching this video.